What's up everybody, SubaruX fan here for another weekly update. So there's tons of stories to go over since I was out of town last week and missed doing a video then. So we're just gonna get right into all the news here. And the first story is something that on the surface sounds very exciting, but anyway, I will first start off by saying Subaru has teased a BRZ STI of sorts. So we just have a teaser image here of a carbon fiber wing that has STI on it clearly. And actually right about 2 days before that picture was posted, a BRZ STI was spied in Michigan on Michigan plates driving around. And so it's very interesting because, you know, you can see from the camouflage there, the little bit that it has that, I mean, they didn't really try too hard to hide this thing. They just put some black tape over the front air dam there a little bit and covered up the STI badges, and that's about it. So what we're looking at here, unfortunately, it looks like it's basically a BRZ TS, which is a model that's available over in Japan, but we didn't get here in the States. We've had the Series Blue and stuff that has some STI looking bits on it. I think this is kind of just another one of those special editions that has a little bit extra handling prowess, but that's it. All the sources are saying there is no additional power here, and knowing how stubborn Subaru and Toyota are with resisting to give this vehicle more power, I would be stunned if it had any additional power. So don't get too excited unless you always wanted a better handling BRZ with a big spoiler on the back, but you didn't want to go to the aftermarket, then this is your car. That's the thing though. I'm going to wait until there's the official, this car is going to be officially revealed on June 8th, and I will save my full rant for then if the vehicle is what I think it's going to be. But I just have to say that, you know, how many people are actually requesting this BRZ STI like this? Everyone wants more power, and the people that don't want more power are happy with the current BRZ setup. So you have those people that already have their BRZs and aren't going to buy another one, and then you have, you know, those that want more power and won't buy one because it doesn't have more power. So those are the only people that are going to be adding to BRZ sales, really, and those people aren't getting what they want. Instead, they're getting this, you know, bigger spoiler and, you know, some aero stuff and some better handling improvements. You can see it has Brembos here and things like that. But the performance package on the normal BRZ has Brembos and stuff now. So really, I mean, how much better is this going to be? And again, this car doesn't need any better stopping power. It doesn't need any better handling. Both of those things are already outstanding on it. The only shortcoming the BRZ has is this lack of power, and that is something that this car is still going to struggle with. And again, why would you spend probably with 35 grand for this STI version whenever it comes out, whenever you could save a ton of money and just do these parts on your own in the aftermarket? Again, it just kind of boggles my mind why they're even bothering to make this, quite honestly, if they're not going to do it the way everyone wants them to do it. But anyway, like I said, I will save, I could go on for 10 minutes about this, so I'm just going to skip and go to the actual exciting Subaru news for this week, and that's also Dominic Infante, the guy that does the PR here for Subaru North America. He's also said that there's going to be, he confirmed to Auto Guide, there's going to be also a WRX STI Type RA that's going to be revealed on June 8th as well, next week here. And that is one that actually sounds a little more exciting because, you know, so far with the WRX STI, you know, it's had the same power and everything, but they're saying supposedly for this new Type RA, the Type RA is a Japanese model that dates back to the early 90s and is a more hardcore version, which sounds like something I'm sure a lot of people would be into, and it's pretty legitimate though. It's going to have a full carbon fiber roof, and you can see that roof here in this teaser shot. There's also a shot of the badge, so you can see how that looks. Other things, it's going to have a carbon fiber rear wing. It's going to have an upgraded suspension, of course, 19-inch forged BBS wheels that are going to be available in gold, which you haven't seen since the 2015 launch edition STI, so awesome to have the gold offered again. And it's going to have Recaro race seats. So it's going to have, you know, some lighter weight thanks to that carbon fiber roof and whatnot. But this report is also saying, according to Motor One, that it's going to also have engine and gearing upgrades that are going to give it more power than the STI's current 305 horsepower. Now, if it's more than 5 horsepower over the normal STI, I would be stunned. I'm not expecting, you know, a huge jump. No new engine or anything. I think it's just, you know, breathing enhancements and typical things like that. But it will be quicker, of course, you know, thanks to the extra lightness as well. So overall, I think that sounds like a much more exciting package, and you do get a little bit of additional power, which is welcome as well. And anyway, so cool to see those. We'll see the full reveal of those, like I said, June 8th. And but yeah, cool to hear about that. The BRZ, other Subaru news that's not very thrilling either is for the 2018 Forester, they're going to have a new black edition that was just announced. And it's like all the other crossovers. Nissan has been one of the biggest ones here to do these blacked out versions that are apparently selling a lot better than the standard versions. So Subaru's hopping on the bandwagon here. The other enhancement, aside from all the blacked out features here on this black edition Forester, is it also includes the LED headlights now in that package. And you also get the paddle shifters from the Forester XT. But again, another head-scratching decision by Subaru. This package is only available on the standard slow Forester, not on the XT model. You would think this black sportier package would be wanted by people who want the sportier Forester XT, not the people that get the standard slower Forester. So why the black package is not available on the XT boggles my mind. And then also a couple other little Subaru things is they actually, Bloomberg sat down with the global Subaru CEO, and they were talking about future plans and saying how there could be a possible plug-in hybrid Subaru model that could be coming as soon as next year. And then they also are saying how they plan to do electric vehicles, but it's really going to be just adding electric stuff into the current models, because they basically are saying, if someone in China wants a Crosstrek, but they aren't allowed to buy a gasoline Crosstrek, but they still want a Subaru, but they can only get an electric car, they want to have an electric option available for that person. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be their complete focus or anything. It's just like, we want to have electric vehicles for those that want electric vehicles, and meet that need so that people don't have to pass up on a Subaru, which makes sense. So look for some plug-in hybrids and eventually fully EV Subarus here in the future. But anyways, interesting to hear that, and that's it as far as all this Subaru news for this week. Moving on to a competitor to the WRX STI, the Civic Type R. I think we have an official price here for it this week, thanks to a Civic X4 member who apparently saw these things at one of the docks or whatever, and they were putting in window stickers, and he snapped a picture of the window sticker here for the Type R, and it's showing a sticker price for the base model that he found of $34,775. Now this is for what was labeled as the touring model. We were expecting the touring model to maybe be over 35 grand, be a little more expensive, then there'd be a base model that comes in even cheaper. So this really, if this touring model has all the fully loaded features and everything, and it's still under 35,000 bucks, with everything, destination included, that is really impressive, and that puts it, a good bit under the Focus RS there, and about $5 grand less than a Golf R. Again, those both have all-wheel drive. This is only front-wheel drive. But a lot of people don't care that much, and I think this is really going to be kind of a good value proposition. And it's basically just as much power as the rest, with Focus RS obviously having a good amount more power. But it should be able to keep up with those pretty well still. And so anyway, cool to hear that, and good on Honda for bringing it in at a really attractive price. While we're talking about the Focus RS, though, interesting thing. So it's recently came out that Ford is discontinuing the Focus RS after the 2018 model year. That's mostly because 2019 model year is when an all-new Focus is believed to be arriving, and so it wouldn't make sense to have the RS for the old model and the main model for the new one. Although tell it to Subaru, they have the brand new Impreza, and they still have the WRX and STI on the old platform. But Ford likes to keep everything in line, which makes sense. So anyway, the Focus RS is dying after the 2018 model year here. Now there will probably be an RS model for the next generation, considering how warmly this one was received, but for the time being they're coming to an end as far as production goes, and so Ford has decided to capitalize on this with a limited edition last few models here. So this limited edition model, it's going to be available either in race red, which is a new color here for the RS, or in the nitrous blue that we've seen before, and it has the typical blacked out roof, mirrors, and rear wing. But the big deal here, because otherwise it's just a little appearance package and kind of silly, but the actual nice performance improvement that these have with this limited edition model is a new Quaif, I don't know how you pronounce that word, mechanical limited slip differential, and that is for the front wheels. And so they say that should help improve traction under acceleration and aid cornering exit speeds. And so that limited slip there in the front should help to actually help it perform better, which is a cool improvement. And then these limited edition models all come comes standard with the RS2 package, which gives you all the tech goodies and fully loaded up there. And that also includes, as far as interior stuff goes, carbon fiber door pulls, handbrake handle, and auxiliary gauge cluster trim. So all those are finished in carbon fiber. But anyway, cool to have that. And then as far as the numbers, they say they're only going to be doing 1,500 of these, and it's going to be 1,000 for the United States and 500 for Canada. They're going to start taking orders this summer, and this will be the last opportunity to order an RS for this generation, and the cars will be delivered in the fall. So I don't know if they're making normal 2018 Focus RSs or if it's just these 1,500 and then they're done. And so it's basically you either get a 2017 model of the normal one or this limited edition one that you're forced into. I'm not totally sure. They weren't super clear. Hopefully they'll make some normal RSs for 2018 as well still, instead of just forcing you into this limited edition one. But anyway, cool to see that. And some German news here this past week. The first is that a couple stories from BMW. The first is that they debuted the 8 Series concept here this past week, and it looks pretty striking, I have to say. It looks pretty good. The only thing I'm not in love with on this concept is the large kidney grills that almost have like a pig snout kind of look to them from certain angles. Otherwise, though, I think it's a very beautiful looking vehicle overall. And so they say, according to the BMW chairman, he's saying that this new 8 Series Coupe will demonstrate that razor-sharp dynamics and modern luxury can go hand in hand. And they didn't announce officially what engine's even in this vehicle. It's just a concept after all, but there's rumors or sources that have said it's a twin-turbo 6.6 liter V12 out of the 760, and that could be the motor that ends up being in the production model as well. But again, that's speculation currently. But they did confirm that the 8 Series is going to take the 6 Series Coupe's production slot early next year, and so they're going to not be making any more 6 Series Coupes anymore. They will continue to make the Grand Coupe, and they're actually, they said they're going to continue on with the 6 Series here with a new Gran Turismo model that's going to be replacing the 5 Series Gran Turismo, which was never a hot seller anyway here, at least in the States. So the 6 Series will continue on as only 4-door models, and then as far as 2 doors, you'll have to go up to the 8 Series. And then to add even more onto that, like 2 days after the concept was revealed, they revealed a camouflaged M8 model, and they said that the M8's been in development alongside the standard 8 Series all along, and they're developing the cars together. And so they say that the 8 Series will build on the genes of, or the M8 will build on the genes of the 8 Series and add added trackability and generous extra portions of dynamic sharpness, precision, and agility. Now, as far as that precision and agility, there's rumors that the M8 model is actually going to have a downsized engine. It's going to have the M5's new engine, which is the 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 that is rumored in the M5 to do 600 horsepower. Could be maybe 650 for the M8 here or something. We'll have to wait and see. So it'll be more power than that twin turbo V12 that's in the standard 8 Series. But it's interesting that, the more expensive, higher performing one is going to have a smaller engine, but that should help with weight and handling and all that kind of stuff. So that makes sense. But this M8, they're poised to price it in a pretty expensive bracket here. They're saying that they want it to fill the void between the 760 Li and the cheapest Rolls-Royce, which is the Wraith. So somewhere between 7 Series, fully loaded 7 Series, which isn't cheap to begin with, well over $100,000, and the Wraith, which is what, like $250 or something, I think. So look at high 100, maybe even close to 200 grand. We'll have to wait and see. They say they wanted to compete with the S63 Coupe from Mercedes and even the Bentley Continental GT, Porsches, Aston Martins, and Ferraris, all that stuff they want to compete with. So pretty crazy with that, but we'll just have to wait and see if they can really put something out that's that high end. But anyway, cool to see that. And for a more affordable and obtainable BMW here, the Z4 was spied yet again, which we know has been developed alongside the new Supra forever and ever, and I don't know when this thing's actually going to be debuting in production form. But the interesting thing here from these new spy shots that we saw is we get a glimpse of the interior, and it includes a manual transmission, which is huge, especially with these days of the manual dying off. To have it in a brand new model here is a really big deal and really exciting to see. And supposedly, Autocar here is reporting that a Z4 concept is going to be debuting this summer at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance in mid-August here in California. And the Autocar is also saying that they're in the final stages of production for the actual production version. We'll see the concept, and it'll probably be a little more swoopier than the real, production vehicle. And then they say that the actual model should go on sale here at the end of 2018 is what they're hearing. And there's also in some other recent spy photos, supposedly there was a document that was visible that was talking about how there's a Z4 S20i model, which they say is going to have the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that does about 200 horsepower, according to that leaked spec there. So not confirmed there, but we're assuming it's going to have all the normal range of engines you see in like a 3 Series or 4 Series, and that's kind of what you can expect here for the new Z4. But anyway, interesting to see that. And the next couple stories here from Jaguar, who are being their typical awesome selves, and they just teased a new vehicle called the XESV Project 8 Collector's Edition. And what this basically is the Jag F-Type SVR motor turned up to give you actually 592 horsepower instead of the 575, and it's put in the XE instead of the F-Type. And so it's going to debut at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it's going to have 592 horsepower, 600 PS for those over in Europe, and Jag's calling it the most extreme Jaguar ever. So it's going to have that 5-liter supercharged V8 engine that's glorious, and they say it's actually because of that horsepower rating of 592, it's going to be the most powerful vehicle that they've ever put into production, which is a pretty big deal. And they say, this is going to be super limited, super raw. They say it's going to be limited to just 300 models that are going to be hand built, and they say that it takes aerodynamics and performance engineering to another level. So pretty bold claim. It sounds like it's going to be an epic car. They just had a little teaser. It gives us one quick glimpse of the back end there, and that's really it. Otherwise, we just hear it, and we already are familiar with that awesome soundtrack, and never gets old. But anyway, this car's going to be revealed fully on June 30th, but Jag has said they're going to give us a little more details on June 28th, 2 days before the full official reveal. And anyway, that sounds awesome, so very cool to hear about that. And then the other Jag story is also about the XE, actually, and that's that there was another one camouflaged driving around, and the spy photographer actually ran the registration on the license plate to try and figure out what it was going on, and it was actually registered as a 5-liter V8. So 5-liter V8 engine, probably that same glorious motor, in the normal XE, what would probably be called an XE R, so the non-hardcore version without the spoiler and all the crazy suspension stuff of this collector's edition I just talked about. This will be the normal one. So think of the Project 8 collector's edition being like the Jag F-Type Project 7, and then this being like, the F-Type R or SVR, little notch down, but still very awesome, and it looks a lot more subdued here. You can only really see, it's still probably going to be about another year before this XER comes out, and so it probably still has some work to be done there, especially in the back end. But we know that this 5-liter V8, it's had all kinds of various tunes since the introduction in the first F-Type V8S of 495 horsepower, and now currently the slowest version has 550 in the F-Type R. So it could be 550, could be anywhere in between. We know this motor is very versatile as far as its tunes, so anywhere in the 500 range is a safe bet. But anyway, cool to see that running around, and just I love, again, Jag. It's almost like the Hellcat motor I was talking about in last weekly update. We're just put this awesome V8 engine in everything you can, and it makes all the enthusiasts happy, myself included. So anyway, awesome to see that. A cool story here from Rolls-Royce this past week. So they were commissioned to do a one-off coupe called the Sweptail by a very wealthy collector, supposedly, who collects bespoke machinery. And so that person, they took design inspiration from the coach-built Rolls-Royces from the 1920s, and so this thing is got a boat tail kind of design there in the back. It's got a glass roof, and it's just really striking looking. There is no price even listed because, like I said, this is not for sale. This guy just paid Rolls-Royce to make him a custom car, essentially. So it's only a 2-seater, actually. Where the rear seats would have normally been, they have shelves made out of wood and glass, and there's wood veneer everywhere in the car, even in the trunk and stuff. And there's also the typical nice leathers and other woods within the interior. And this car also has a couple cool little design things as well, including suicide doors that open up to reveal platforms for attache cases to carry the owner's laptops, computers, and those cases alone are constructed from carbon fiber. They're wrapped in leather, and they have aluminum and titanium finishes as well. And then in between the seats is a little refrigerator that has crystal champagne flutes and a bottle of champagne from the year that the owner was born, the owner of this car. So very, very high end. It just sounds like it's from another world. And then the trunk, of course, has custom designed luggage as well, because of course, why wouldn't you? And so yeah, it's a one-off model. Very cool. Just none of us will ever see this thing, but it looks very cool nonetheless. And kudos to that guy. That's awesome. Now for some more mundane news. A few vehicles here that were spied and whatnot. First is the Jeep Cherokee refresh was spied. And it's got heavy camouflage on both the front and the back. And the interesting thing is there was a non-camouflage car with the current body style that was running around with a bunch of radar sensors. But those radar sensors are in the place of where the normal headlights would be with the Cherokee. Because the Cherokee, that top light strip is just an accent lighting, and the actual headlight is that bottom little square there. And so that is blocked off by radars. And so because of the heavy camouflage, there's a lot of people thinking, okay, well, this is probably going to ditch the split headlight arrangement and either go to a more traditional headlight setup, which I think would be welcome and make it a little less polarizing as far as looks go, or it might just be in a different version of that same setup and just bring the lights a little bit closer together to clear those radar sensors. But yeah, interesting to see that. You can see in the back there's also a bunch of camo, but we can't really tell anything because it's just totally camouflaged there. But anyway, cool to see that. Other Jeep news is that the Grand Wagoneer design was supposedly leaked out because of a European patent filing, and that patent filing had drawings, which you can see here. It basically looks like a Grand Cherokee that's stretched sideways and long ways, and just kind of a stretched out Grand Cherokee there in the way that it looks with, wider headlights and things like that. And we've already heard that, this Grand Wagoneer is going to try and position Jeep a little bit more up market and compete with stuff like the Escalade and the Range Rovers and stuff like that, and could even be up around $100,000 for a really nice one, which is pretty crazy. But looks like it's gonna be a pretty big SUV, and hopefully will be worth the price. So very cool to see that. Other Mopar news is that Dodge this past week revealed the pricing for the Demon, and it's going to be starting at $85,000, $84,995, which is $20,000 more than a Hellcat for only 100 some odd horsepower. I mean, of course, you have all the cool technological trickery to get those crazy fast 0 to 60 times and quarter mile times. But still, that's a pretty steep price, but you do get a lot for your money, and there are a lot of things that are bundled into that price. For example, there's that tuner crate that was mentioned during all the teasers that gives you the skinnier tires and all the tools and the different control module for the extra horsepower on the race gas. All that stuff is only a $1 option, and that's like a $6,000 package supposedly. That's what it's worth at least, and it's only going to cost $1. So I think they've built all that stuff into the price here because they know everyone's going to probably just take every $1 option they can get because it's like freebies essentially. And so other things like the front passenger seat's only going to be $1, the rear seat's $1 if you want to add those back in, because we know they will sell you one without a front passenger seat, without a back seat. You have to pay $1 to add those back in. And strangely, a sunroof is $5,000 as an option. So if you want a very rare collector Demon in the future, get one with a $5,000 sunroof that no one is going to want to order except for those that mothball them and put them away because they'll say it's one of like 20 cars to actually get a sunroof. But yeah, they're going to be building 3,300 of these. 300 of those are going to Canada. We're getting the remaining 3,000 here in the United States. So pretty limited. Although, I mean, Challengers don't sell in huge numbers, but that's still going to be a pretty limited amount there. And anyway, so interesting to see that. Another muscle car of sorts is the Corvette ZR1. Some information leaked out about the engine of that vehicle here in the past 2 weeks or so. And so the info was leaked out by Weapon X Motorsports, and they're basically going through the GM RPO system, which is, I guess, some kind of internal system or whatever. And it showed that the LT5 is going to have variable valve timing, direct injection, and aluminum construction along with a supercharger, but it won't have any kind of dual overhead cam design like they were thinking it might. And so it sounds like this is just going to be a variation on the LT4, which is the Z06 and CTSV motor currently, and probably just have a bigger supercharger, and that was, I guess, enough to warrant a new name of the LT5. And so that's all that it sounds like it's going to be. I mean, that's still, the Z06 and CTSV already plenty of power, 650, 640. So, this will be probably, into the 700 range or close to it. And so should be awesome nonetheless, but just not quite as revolutionary as some people were originally thinking. But anyway, interesting to see that. Back to some German news with Mercedes. This past week, they was announced that, we know there's now the two-tiered AMG models. There's like the C43 and the C63, and that kind of is the way it goes for a lot of the models and will continue to go as far as AMG's plans are concerned. And so they said that that's also going to extend to the compact models, so the A-Class, which we don't get here in the States, but we do get, the CLA and the GLA. All three of those models are going to have the A45 AMGs, that they've had in the past, but then there's also going to be another model. Whether that model is slower or faster than the A45 remains to be seen, but they said they will be doing some kind of other additional model there to have that two-tier setup. And so cool to see that. As other AMG news though is that they were spy testing the new C63 Coupe and sedan. And so you can see there's a new grille kind of in the works there, new front and rear bumpers, still running the existing headlights, but that's probably just because it's a test mule. I'm sure they'll have the new headlights that we've seen on the updated C-Class that was spied running around recently. And so we don't see any pictures of the interior, but we assume there's going to be better infotainment and a few other enhancements, probably a new gauge cluster or something like that as well. Whether or not these AMG models are going to have any more power with the new C63 refresh remains to be seen. It's probably unlikely. Supposedly, AutoGuide's reporting that there is going to be some kind of C63R model that is currently in the works, and that could be the one that has higher horsepower. So these might just remain or get a slight little bump, but don't expect anything, really mind-blowing as far as power changes for the refresh. But anyway, cool to see those. And for some really crazy Mercedes news, they just showed off the drivetrain for their Project 1 hypercar, which is that 1,000 horsepower street legal Formula 1 race car is essentially what it is. And the more details we get about this thing, the crazier it sounds. It really is like an F1 car. And I'm going to keep it brief because this is already getting to be a long weekly update. But just some highlights here. You can see it has central air intakes that come up over the engine just like the F1 car, and will be integrated into the roof, I'm assuming. They say this will be a hardtop kind of deal. It has a hybrid system, of course, which has 15 miles of electric range. It's going to have all-wheel drive. And the AMG chairman, Tobias Moores, has said it shifts up the boundaries of what is technically feasible. And they say they're going to be limiting it to 275 models is all they're building. And they say that we are the first to make purebred F1 technology roadworthy. And they're not joking here. I mean, the red line for this vehicle is going to be 11,000 RPMs. It's got a very high-tech turbo that's actually driven by a 107 horsepower electric motor, and the motor, the actual gasoline engine in this thing, is a 1.6 liter V6 engine that we've heard from in the past is only going to be able to last 31,000 miles before it needs a complete rebuild or just like an all-out replacement. So very high strung, and that's still far longer than the life of a standard F1 motor, but still 31,000 miles doesn't sound like a whole lot. But again, how many hypercars really get up to that kind of mileage anyway? But anyway, yeah, it's going to be $2.54 million. It's going to seat 2 people. And it's actually going to follow the same kind of Formula 1 formula that they use with the actual race cars, where the entire car is built around a carbon fiber chassis tub, when then the engine's mounted directly to that, and then the gearbox and differential are connected to the engine. So everything's kind of interconnected there. And then they also said that instead of doing a dual clutch transmission, it's actually going to have a traditional it's going to have a computer controlled clutch with a manual gearbox. So it's going to still have paddle shifters and not have a clutch pedal. It's just going to be computer controlled, which is kind of an old school approach, but that seems to be what they say is going to work best for this vehicle. They're expecting the first deliveries going to be arriving late next year, and they want to finish the production run of those 275 models by 2020. So pretty crazy there. It just sounds absolutely insane, but very awesome. And back to some more mundane news again. Volkswagen debuted the Up GTI, which is only for Europe. We don't get the Up here in the States. And so it's got a nice little bump. I think the standard Up has like 89 horsepower or something. This one has the same 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo engine as the standard Up, but it's bumped up in power. So it has 114 horsepower, 148 pound-feet of torque, and a 6-speed manual is the only transmission offered. And it's kind of cool because it's roughly the same dimensions as the original GTI, but it is 302 pounds heavier than a original, Mark 1 GTI, and that's just because of the safety and emissions equipment they have to have on cars these days. But it's still, should be fun, being such a small little vehicle, but it's not fast. 0 to 62 takes 8.8 seconds and has 122 mile per hour top speed. But, for a cool little city car, I think it could actually be a cool formula. And, but yeah, not coming to the States, so those of us here don't have to even think about it. Other Volkswagen news is the new Volkswagen Touareg was spied, and it looks kind of exactly how you would expect it to look. It's a cross between the Tiguan, which is the smaller one, and the Atlas, which is the bigger one. Kind of a nice midway point, and that's kind of where the new Touareg is going to be positioned. And, yeah, what we can see here looks pretty good. It's sticking with the brand new Volkswagen design language, which I think looks pretty attractive. And so cool to see that. Two cars that officially ended production here this past week. The first is Lexus has decided to discontinue the CT200H. There will not be a 2018 model year. They're ending him here with 2017 for the United States. Now, the rest of the world, they're going to keep making them, but here in the United States, they're not bringing us the CT200H anymore. And I actually reviewed one many years ago, and it was a nice vehicle if you want something just to slowly cruise around in, but it absolutely had no power. I mean, it was really pretty slow. And I think that's the thing that really hurt it here in the States. Because it was essentially just a nicer Prius, and even the new Prius now has much better range than this did and better fuel economy. And so I think it kind of got outdated, and they just didn't bother to keep it up with the times, and so it's going by the wayside here. And then the other vehicle that sadly, the last one was built this week, was the Chevy SS Sedan. The last one rolled off the plant here in Australia this week, and it was signed by all the people that built it. And supposedly it's rumored that this last SS is actually going to a GM employee. And it's really sad. We know there isn't any kind of new Chevy SS on the horizon. We know that the next Holden Commodore for Australia, and the vehicle that will be shared around the world, is going to just be based on what we'll be getting is I think the Opel Insignia, and then we're getting it here in the States as a Buick Regal, I believe. And so, that's not going to be any kind of fun enthusiast platform. It's all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive based, and no more rear-wheel drive awesome V8 sedans for Australia, the Europe, or us, sadly. So really a shame, but it's sold so slowly, and with dwindling car sales and everyone going to SUVs, it doesn't make any sense for them to make another one, and you can't blame them for that. So, but anyway, it had a good run, and so sad to see it go. Another thing that we thought we would get, but we actually aren't, is N Performance models. So, Hyundai was saying how they're having this N Performance brand, and originally they actually confirmed that it's going to be for Genesis models, and they were going to compete with the M models from BMW and all that kind of stuff, AMG models, all those types of vehicles. And maybe it sounds like they've reversed course, because supposedly there was an interview where they were talking to the head of the N Performance division, Australia's Drive magazine was, and they kind of dropped a bunch of bombshells and said there are no performance models planned for the Genesis. So the G70 that's coming, I guess there's no N performance model of that. Nothing for the G80 or G90. Those models are just going to be luxury, and that's it. No kind of performance, I suppose. At least not as far as the N line is concerned. They're just, we saw in last week's weekly update about the i30N, and that is just going to be the Elantra Sport hatchback here in the States, and we'll probably get that as well. So, there's that hot hatch. This is all they're building. They said that the next one is going to be a fastback version of that same hot hatch. So maybe, now there's rumors, we already have the Elantra sedan here, but there isn't any Elantra Coupe, but they're saying there could be some kind of like Audi A5 Sportback or Audi A7 looking Hyundai Elantra thing. Really confusing, but that could get an N performance model next is what they're saying. And then also the i20N, which is a World Rally Championship rally car. Essentially, they're going to be making a street legal version of that. We don't get that here in the States, so I'm not sure. I think that's kind of just a Europe-only deal. But yeah, and then they said the guy in the interview, this head of the N division, he kept talking about the Tucson and how the Tucson's a great platform and stuff, which is, the smallest SUV that Hyundai has. And so this magazine, Australia's Drive magazine, they're making it sound like the Tucson could get any kind of performance treatment next after this i30 Elantra type deal. So again, totally confusing. I don't understand this at all, why they would go from little hot hatches to making some kind of hopped up SUV and bypassing all the Genesis models that actually need performance variants. But that's what it sounds like the plan is currently, and so we'll have to wait and see if there's any more enlightenment about that here in the future. But anyway, interesting to see that. Toyota this past week filed a trademark for the TJ Cruiser name here in the United States. And now we just saw, a couple of months ago here, the FTX4 concept at the New York Auto Show. Could be a toned-down version of that to compete with Jeep. We know the Jeeps are very hot right now, and so Toyota has great off-roading heritage as well with the FJ and the FJ Cruisers that everyone really loves. And so they don't want to make another FJ, but if they kind of do something somewhat similar, call it the TJ, and kind of make everyone happy that way. Sounds like a cool idea, but again, just a trademark patent. These are filed all the time for stuff that never actually sees the light of day, but does sound like it's a possibility there for Toyota, so cool to see that. And Chinese company Geely, which is they're the ones that own Volvo and gave Volvo their revival and really put out some great products here that the new Volvo has. They just bought a majority stake in Lotus, which is great news because Lotus, they've really been on hard times, haven't really had much money to invest in new models, and so they've just had the Elise and the Evora just been kind of rotting away here little by little. And so this should hopefully give Lotus a nice infusion of money to hopefully bring about some new models and really get some fresh stuff out there, which is what they really need. And so very exciting to hear that. And the last couple things here are some quick shots sent in by you guys. And you can always feel free to contact me in the description below, either email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and send me in your shots here. First, we have Ruben R717 who sent me in some shots from Linwood, California of what looks like a next generation Honda Insight. Now, we haven't heard anything really about a new Insight, but that's kind of how it looks, especially in the back there. It's got a very bulbous kind of shape that reminds us of the Insight. And so he kind of agreed when I was talking to him that that's probably, could be what this is, but could be something else entirely. We've seen the new Accord and Spy shots already, and we know that that's not what this is. So whatever this is, it's something different. So interesting to see that. The next one is sent in by Joe, who goes by RecTC on Instagram, and he sent in this SUV that was testing in Lordsburg, New Mexico with Arizona plates on them. And he said that the drivers were European and speaking in a different language. He said it kind of looked like a Ford Explorer there in the back. You can look at those clips here and let me know in the comments below what you think these vehicles are. But interesting thing to me is it kind of looks like a Kia Sportage there in the front with that split headlight kind of arrangement. So maybe it's a new version of the Sportage, but yeah, I welcome all your thoughts there in the comments below about what that is. And then the last one is not a vehicle that's really a spied or anything, but someone sent me in some clips here of a ZL1 1LE on the streets. Now, these aren't supposed to start being delivered here until later on this summer, so really early production. This was in Michigan and had normal Michigan plates, not manufacturer plates, which means this is someone's privately owned vehicle, not a company vehicle. So interesting to see that. I mean, the person that sent me these clips here is guessing, and him and his dad are saying, well, it's probably some kind of GM executive. That's the only kind of person that would have the access to this vehicle so soon. But anyway, so cool to see one of those already rolling around on the streets. But yes, so that's it for all of the updates here this week. So let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys for making it to the end, those of you that did. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care.